Hello and welcome to the Arsenal BiteSize Podcast. I'm FPL Nima and I'm of course joined by my co-host Clayton at Clates AFC on Twitter. We're here for the first episode of the 23-24 season. We're going to review the transfer window for Arsenal so far and also talk a little bit about squad depth and what kind of, unpredictability the new signings may bring to our way of play going forwards. But yeah, good to be back. Nice to see some of you in the chat. We've got a poll going as well about where do you think Arsenal will finish this season? First, second, top four, or outside top four? So do get voting, get involved, and we'll kind of end that poll 5-10 minutes into the show, and we try and do a few more polls as we go. But yeah, good to be back, Clayton. How are you doing, man? You excited for the new season? Just under 3 weeks to go, right?
Yeah, counting down the days. I'm so good to be back. Like, I've actually missed doing this, and I think obviously we've started a bit later than I think most other pods, right? And it's like you're seeing like the content trickling through, and like I'm loving absorbing it all. But I've just missed actually speaking about Arsenal myself, and obviously you speak to mates and stuff. But there's something about when we get together. You're what we've said before is like, when you're in the pub, like you feel like quite limited with what you can actually talk about, because of like you've got time constraints, all of that. Whereas when we're here, like you can literally go into any depth you want, and so nice to be back. I've really missed it, and yeah, I'm very, very optimistic, excited for the new season, all the adjectives. But what did you vote in the poll out of interest?
I wish I remembered. Let me check. I think it might show a tick. I may have voted second.
I voted first, putting that out there.
And then just another one, quick shout out to FPL Plonker. Says, yes, lads, in the live chat. We've got Dream Team Professor, oi, oi. Thank you for sharing the good word as well, my friend. We really do appreciate that.
Yeah, cheers, guys.
Yeah, so we've obviously started the season, our second full season now. We have 160
we made
subscribers. Yeah, we made it to season 2, right?
It's going to be a bit of a cliff towards the end, didn't we? But
yeah, well, same as Arsenal did, right? In
the
title run-in, we also did a similar thing with our pod schedule. But we will be back. We will be consistent, and we're hoping to bring some new, exciting content this year.
You're going to talk about a little bit about that, Mike. All right?
Yeah, I think so. And do let us know in the chat if there's anything you do want to see or any ideas you have. Obviously, feedback's always appreciated to help us improve. But so we're hoping to do some kind of instant reactions from games. They'll be very short. They'll be like 30 seconds to a minute each. And we just want to capture the raw kind of in-the-moment reaction. Obviously, a lot of the time, that might even be inside the Emirates that gets recorded on one of our phones. And we'll hope to kind of upload those as YouTube shorts, maybe onto TikTok and Instagram.
Community Shield in a couple of weeks. I'll be there. I'll plan doing something from there. That'll be quite fun.
Nice. Hopefully. That could be the first one, maybe. Yeah, that would be the first one. But yeah, let us know what else you guys would like to see. I think we're also maybe looking into kind of getting some more guests on this year.
Yeah, no, the feedback fun, was right? Obviously we had, was it Dan that came on to preview the West Ham game once, and like the feedback to that was really good. And I'm sure we had another fan to preview a game. Maybe I'm wrong, but in general, even when we've had like Arsenal supporting guests on, the feedback to that has always been great. So want to kind of do that a bit more, roundtables. But I think the thing that I've kind of said I'm quite keen on is not for every preview, because I do think our previews are quite nice and have the Arsenal lens, but maybe for like the bigger games, if we can have a guest on from the other team and kind of get like the neutral view of things and the opposing side of view. And yeah, looking to mix it up a bit. But the one constant that will be the same as last year is obviously the match day previews that we do, and then obviously the reviews after the game. But looking to mix it up a bit with some shorts, like Nima said, with instant reaction stuff as well.
Definitely. So let's get right into it. So obviously we've got the picture of the 3 new signings so far. They've come in nice and early. They've gone to the US tour. We have obviously, our kind of record-breaking signing, most expensive ever English player in the transfer market.
Yeah, British transfer record.
Yeah, so that's quite exciting. If you asked me last preseason if we could get him, never in a million years would I have thought that he was an attainable target for us. So that's quite fun. So we'll talk about him first. Then we'll talk about Kai Havertz. Obviously, still young guy, was a wonder kid growing up through Germany, touted as the best 8 or 10 coming out of Germany, and has kind of fallen off a little bit, I guess you could say, not being quite there at Chelsea over the last few years, despite the Champions League winning goal. It'll be interesting to hear how we think he might be utilized by Arteta. And then Jurrien Timber, the Ajax captain, only 22 years old and very versatile, fits right into the kind of the squad build of young players, kind of 24 and under, with lots of international experience as well. So yeah, should we start with Declan?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on him, I guess? Because, this was, as I say, a signing. I always thought he was going to go back to Chelsea. It felt like he wanted Champions League football. We hadn't been in the Champions League for best part of half a decade. And next thing you know, we had to compete with City in a bid to get him. And it was starting to get very tense at that moment in time.
Yeah, I mean, so I wasn't tense. And it's just my mindset for this whole transfer window has been, I've deleted the Twitter app anyway, just because I find it so jarring. And I just feel like the drip-fed news of everything is like, I think I tweeted about this, as fans, we feel like we know everything that's going on because of the perceived information we're getting from Fabrizio Romano and all these different outlets. In reality, we literally probably know 2 to 5% max of what's going on behind the scenes. So I was never stressed, even when, City officially bid and stuff. My whole mindset around it was, there's 2 outcomes. We either get him or we don't. If we get him, I'll be over the moon. If we don't, you know me, like I'm on to the next thing. Like I really wanted Declan Rice because I do think in terms of what he does and how I think he'll fit into our team, he's the best in the world at that. So I struggled with the concept of getting on board with, okay, move on to the next target. But once City bid, I just thought, can you control the outcome? No. So I just kind of was like, oh, okay, it is what it is. But we got him, and it was very, very clear he wanted us. Like people have their own narratives and opinions on, oh, City just bid to drive the price up. They're one of the best run clubs in the world. They're not playing poker. Like they don't.
City doesn't bid 90+ million for a player they don't want.
Exactly. Like that's such bullshit. I don't get people that say that. I really do not get where that comes from. And right, like it's been so out there how much he wanted us. You can see but like I know it's so hard to psychoanalyze stuff, but you can see his body language. It's like he wants to be here. He gets it. Even little things like saying the Arsenal, like describing the carpet, like you can see he feels at home here already. And even the way he's talking about, you see when he was doing the tour behind the scenes,
that
and he was
video
reading
was so good.
It was amazing, and you see him reading like the Rocastle quote and everything about he gets it. And then he's saying about we want to get Arsenal back to like winning the league. And then he spoke about we want to go on and win the Champions League, which we've obviously never done. And I just think he has everything. And Arteta, I forgot where I read or heard about this. He mentioned that we've got a transfer grading system. And every single category he came out top. And you see that psychologically, his mindset, his footballing ability, his ability to learn. I just think he's one. Clive said this on another pod, like from Arsenal Vision. He's like one of the most coachable players you can get. And I just think he's going to be like a sponge. And I think the price tag, okay, fair enough. People have their opinions, but I just think he's going to be here for 5 to 10 years. It's all the cliches you've heard, like future captain for club and country. But he is going to be the pillar and the nucleus of one of the most exciting teams in world football. And I think it's not necessarily his specific attributes he brings, which is an abundance in terms of what that is. But I think it's the level he can raise everyone else around him as well, in terms of just being that central hub and the way that everything else connects through him.
Did you see in the MLS All-Stars match, he was already like in his first kind of appearance, pointing everywhere he wanted people to be, where he wanted to go. He was very vocal. He was like in-game coaching on the pitch at the time. And you can immediately see he is going to be a vocal leadership type, and he is going to demand excellence from everyone around him. And he's very clear about where he wants them to be, where he wants to get the ball, what he wants to do. And I appreciate, obviously, he's not perhaps played the lone six with essentially 2 number 10s either side of him. And Havertz himself hasn't played the left centre mid against competent opponents like he had to against Man United. So I do think preseason's for experimenting, and some of the kind of the reactions from Arsenal fans, especially as well, has been full on meltdown over God knows what. Because, I guess the best way to frame it is we went into that game to play a friendly, to just experiment, right? United came to play a cup final. There was like 40 fouls in a kind of non-friendly in a non-friendly environment. The threshold for yellow cards is not so high. There would have been some reds. Lissandro was a total fug the way he tried to take out Saka.
Butcher. You see that tweet today to the Raps about, like, there's just a photo of him, like stood like a bad bee on a car. Like obviously he's got his hair dye, and the quote was like, "How are these guys calling this like lesbian looking guy a butcher?"
Oh, butcher. Yeah, there's the vegan butcher, right?
Yeah.
But so I think the main reason I say all this is that, these guys had played like 25 minutes together and they were put in to just try a new system. Now, whether kind of Arteta ultimately decides come the first match on the 12th of August against Forest that, Havertz isn't quite ready to play that left centre mid role and he wants to actually put Partey in the six, maybe play Rice as the left centre mid for a bit more stability. That's still yet to be seen. But I think over the course of the season, more often than not, we would expect to see that Havertz didn't come in for 65 million to not start. So
yeah,
I expect that will be the preferred midfield three, what we saw against United. But I'm not certain if that's necessarily what we're going to see in game week 1. So that obviously community shield will be a big telling factor of what he's going to do, I think.
We'll get onto that sort of stuff and makeup of the squad later on. But individually, Rice, how are you feeling?
Very happy. I couldn't be happier. Honestly, so shout out to Dan as well, who's in the chat, says best in the world.
It must be painful for him hearing all of this. I don't know. Is it painful? Is he?
Yeah. I think he's just happy that fans are seeing how good Declan really is, I suppose. So, at this point in time, I just think that this is a statement signing from us. Like we are not used to competing for the best players in their position, in their prime, against teams
him
like Man
wanting
City.
Us as well.
Like them actually wanting us.
Yeah. Because when we got people like Ozil, Sanchez, they were like surplus. Let's be honest, they were kind of surplus to requirements, really, right? Like for us, it was transformative, but we didn't have to fight to get them. We didn't have to go out and kind of pay the lump sum, like set a British transfer record. And I think, yeah, I'm with you. It still doesn't feel real.
I still can't believe it. But that video, if anyone's not seen it, there's obviously a behind the scenes, like 8-minute, maybe 14-minute video. I can't remember how long it was of Declan doing the tour around, Arsenal Stadium and London Colney on his first day. And honestly, it's just incredible just seeing. And he's already getting on with everyone. My favorite thing, actually, is before we go on to Kai Havertz, is did you see the Ian Wright interview where they kind of said, did you try and tap him up? There was that photo of the England camp. He's like, yes, I did. He goes, I don't work for the club. I'm a fan. Ian, wherever you are, if you ever hear this, you are forever an Arsenal legend. We love you, man. What a man. What a stand-up man. Now we just need Henry to go and do the same with Mbappe. not this year, obviously, because I don't think we can offer 700 million a year package. But
that's nuts.
Maybe next year.
Once we've won the quad, he can.
If we win the Prem and get to the Champions League final, maybe he decides he'd rather come here. But yeah, I think jokes aside, obviously that's delusional from me to say that. That's just like hopium more than anything else. But
I don't see why next season we can't be in the conversation if we perform how we all think we can.
Yeah, I think we can't regress, so we have to keep building on what we did. Want to come
on that. You bottled it on the above average.
That's why I brought it up. I wanted to see your reaction. What was it? 78 points. I said
you did but yeah, you were brilliant on that. But then when I heard you say, I forgot what the context of it was. I think, but Adam was talking about us potentially overperforming and stuff like that. And you were like, maybe I wouldn't be surprised if we're 78-point season. I was like, get out of here, man.
Yeah, but what I didn't say is how many points do I think City will get this season after they come down from a treble.
Yeah, that's the narrative I'm pushing as well.
Yeah, I think 78 points. Anything below that, I would be pretty disappointed. Like, that would be more than just a drop off for me in my eyes. I think 78 is like the number I'd be comfortable with. Knowing that we can't rotate the way we did in that we did in Europa League last year in Champions League, we can't be changing 6-7 players a game in the group stages.
I'll be disappointed with anything less than we finished on last season, personally.
You want to continue seeing the upward trajectory
84, 84 has to be the floor for us now, in my opinion. And I'd argue 88 has to be the floor, if I'm being brutally honest.
After some of the
we'll get onto that later on. Obviously,
we'll get onto that. But Rice, I think unanimous. I think Rice, we say, is a unanimous thumbs up from us.
A star.
Yeah, A star. Yeah, why don't we grade them like that?
Yeah, let's grade them.
I'm just looking at the poll. I'm going to end it and move on to a poll to do with the players we're talking about. So we have 33% think Arsenal will finish first, 50% second, 17% in the top 4, and unsurprisingly for an Arsenal show, outside the top 4 is 0% in the poll. But, sometimes we get our friends from Tottenham coming and listen for FPL advice here. So there are some rival fans tuning in.
They've got to subscribe to comment now, though, right?
That's the thing, that before they couldn't, but now I want to make all the Spurs and Chelsea fans subscribe.
Dan, let us know what you voted for. I'm intrigued to see a non-Arsenal fan's opinion on what you voted for in terms of where we'd finish. But yeah, so we're saying, all right, so Declan Rice was given an A star.
A-star, yeah.
Kai Havertz, what are you saying?
I think he's going to be one that's going to be questioned for the entire season, regardless of what he does. I think at 65 million, people are ready to pile into him. Like, I saw the MLS skills challenge and there was Chelsea fans coming out of the woodwork ready to call it a failure already.
I'm not going to lie, that was bad. I don't think
that was bad, of course.
It's not an indication of how he'll perform, but it was bad.
No, it was definitely bad. But, I'm pretty sure it was the same kind of skills game where Trusty won it for Arsenal with a crossbar challenge. Like, is Aaron Trusty going to play for Arsenal this year? I don't know. I doubt it. No. So I don't think that's really a precursor to anything at all. It's just the Americanization of sport, which is all about entertainment. Yeah. And I will say some elements of the Apple TV coverage I found pretty cool. Like having like the referee camera where you could then see the goal from the referee's angle where he's like behind the player shooting. You would never get those kind of angles and perspectives.
I couldn't stay up for it. I tried, but I fell asleep.
Oh, no, I had a nap. The other thing was, so I don't know if you saw this, but they mic'd up the goalkeeper from the MLS All-Star team while he was doing penalties or free kicks or something. So he was so there was like half the screen was, watching the penalties get taken by the Arsenal players. And then the other half, they had just had him like bouncing up and down, but talking into a mic. And then he was like out of breath in between saves. And it was just so surreal to like see that. Like they were communicating with players mid-game. Like, what the hell? So, I just thought that was interesting. I do wonder if some of that kind of coverage we start seeing European football more. And some of Americans are very good at entertainment. So I would not be surprised.
What's your grading of Havertz as a signing?
So this is controversial, but I'm still going to go for... It's between a B+ and an A- for me. I want to say A-, but I think B+ until I see more. I just think that what he adds is like just there is so much he can do. Like we don't have a player with his attributes in the squad, and I think that for me is like it adds to that kind of unpredictability and being able to play beyond just a plan A like we had last year. So he for me is key to like what we're going to do this season. And I think he is going to get criticized a lot. Just going back to what I said at the start, I think people will misunderstand what his role is and judge him on criteria that perhaps have nothing to do with what the manager wants from him.
Spot on. And I think I'll give him the same grading, to be honest. And let us know in the chat, everyone, your ratings for Rice and Havertz so far. But I'm the same. I think I'd go for a B+. And it's someone that, if I'm being completely honest, when I heard we were linked, I kind of eye rolled and I sighed and I was thinking, I'm not sure. And then I started kind of a bit of putting my own opinions together, but a bit of just kind of watching others and reading athletic articles on people smarter than me piecing together where he may fit in. And then you start to see, okay, there's a plan here. And then you start hearing about Arteta saying the signing of Rice was linked to Havertz in the way they play. And like you kind of accept that. So I think we're going to talk about this later, obviously, in terms of how we may set up and the different variations. But I think we need to get how we played last season out of our head. I think everyone's like, oh, Havertz is coming to play the Xhaka role. Like, no, Havertz is coming to play his own role in a like redefined system. Same way Rice is coming to play a new role in a redefined system. Rice isn't coming to play Partey's role. Havertz isn't coming to play Xhaka's role, in my opinion. And it's one of those, as time went by and I started to feel more confident in it. And I think the thing you said that hit the nail on the head, people are going to misunderstand him all the time. And the immediate thing that comes to my head is I think he's not going to have much instructions or responsibility on the ball. I think a lot of his role in this Arsenal team is going to be instructed on attacking space, off the ball movement, going into different zones and stuff. Whereas Xhaka was obviously instructed to kind of do similar in terms of collapsing lines, breaking through and stuff, but he was instructed to go and win duels, and obviously he got involved in build-up a lot more. I don't think Havertz is going to be instructed to do that. I think his primary role in the team is be in the right areas to put the ball in the back of the net and kind of decoy runs and stuff. And I noticed it against Man United midweek. Not midweek, sorry, it was on the weekend. But everyone was kind of getting onto him and how he was anonymous. I think we're going to find that a lot this season. He will be anonymous, in air quotes, but you'll see him
on the ball, yeah.
On the ball, but you'll see him get returns. You'll see him.
It's what he's doing off the ball. I think what's important is obviously Odegaard was great at pressing and initiating the press last year alongside Jesus. But my kind of understanding is that we are likely to see a kind of 4-4-2 block when we're pressing, and it's going to be Jesus
we did
next
that last
to Havertz
season as well, yeah.
Yeah, so I think Havertz might take that role from Odegaard potentially, and Odegaard might then get more involved in the build-up play in the first phases. And I think that's where Havertz also, like, obviously he's like 6'4", and I know people laughed about the kind of comparisons to the likes of Van Persie and other serial strikers who didn't have as much finishing problems as Havertz does. But beyond kind of working on his shooting abilities, I think he can help us beat one-on-one, 1v1 press. So when you play teams who are just going to constantly press us and then try to beat us on the transition with a ball over the top, Havertz gives them a new headache that we didn't have last year, because he can then suddenly counter the transition and they can be caught out looking silly. So I do think he's going to add a new dimension to the way we play. Whether he's ready to do that new role by game week 1, I don't know. The other thing that not many will have considered is I do think he's equally also like probably our best backup to Jesus in that 9 position. So there is a chance that he would play that kind of false 9 role, and I think he'd do better at it than the likes of Trossard, even Smith Rowe.
Do you? See, I've not seen it yet, but I like Trossard in that false 9 role. But I agree. I think there'll be game states where we do see Havertz up there. I do agree. And
I think what you said that's the thing. So I think he's definitely like a B. I don't think he's like a C or a D. I think that's a bit harsh just based on like a fucking skills challenge in a game against United where, you know, you could see the fitness levels, man. Like, I think I was listening to, it might have been Arsblog, and they were kind of saying that the way Arteta's trying to coach them this preseason is to have fitness when it matters most in the season. So I think they've done like a heavy duty training the day of the United game, and they played a match 48 hours before. Right. I'm sure even Declan Rice himself, you know, we talk about him being availability is one of his main kind of strengths. He was gasping for air like 20 minutes in. So that tells me all I need to know about our players' fitness going into that match. And I'm not going to take that match seriously at all.
No, not at all.
Do you think we'll see? What do you think about? Obviously, we're playing Barcelona in a couple of days. Do you think we're likely to see that same midfield free again? Is he still going to keep going with that?
I'm not sure, because Odegaard played 90, I want to say. Maybe he'll start them in a half together just to kind of build that familiarity. But I think for me, this last pre-season was, again, it's your objectives, right? So last pre-season, as fans, we were working with the objective top 4. And so we had one defined style of playing, and pre-season was about familiarizing yourself with that style. And it became quite evident that it was in such a groove by that Sevilla game. This pre-season, what's the objective? Challenge for the title. Like, in my opinion, Arteta is going to them and saying the objective is we're challenging for everything. And with that in mind, where did we fall short? We only had a plan A, and B, C, D were non-existent. So the objective this pre-season is, I think, partly what you say about kind of not peaking too early and kind of winning games without needing to go full throttle and be kind of available when it matters, but also developing a variety of styles and plan Bs and Cs that we didn't have before. So I think that's why pre-season this season is a little bit different for us. I mean, we're not going to be as slick as we were last season, but I think it's fine because what we're trying to achieve is a bit different. But yeah, I think just one more point just on Havertz before we go on to Timber is, yeah, like you say, the variety he brings us. And I think, like you say, when teams are pressing us and he gives us that outball to kind of go over the top and stuff, we've now got such... I'm excited to get to the slide afterwards where we just talk about the variety and depth we've got now, because it's mad. And you look at the different profiles we've got in different, like in the same zones, we've got different profiles now, and it completely changes the dimension of how we can attack and defend and hurt teams. So I'm really excited. But yeah, Havertz is someone B+ for me.
So just on that, I closed the poll for Declan Rice. That was 100% an A rating for that transfer.
Nice.
I've put a similar poll for Havertz as we move on to Timber, just to get the viewers' thoughts on if that's an A, B, C, or D signing as well from a where you stand perspective today. Let's go on to Timber, as you say. I think Timber's an interesting one. So my cousin, he's actually an Ajax fan who lives in the Netherlands. Cool. And he was telling me about Timber the year before last. So back then, when we were kind of even last summer, I think when we were linked to like Lisandro Martinez and he ultimately went to United, I remember him telling me at the time, he was like, oh, like Timber's the best player at Ajax. He was like, his ceiling is beyond any of our players. He was like, this is our best player in the club. He was like, this is our best academy prospect in a long time. So I never really kind of took any notice at the time, and I never really watched Timber. I'll be very honest. I'm not going to pretend I was watching the Eredivisie.
Not me.
Yeah, so I'm not going to pretend. But just from what I've seen from him so far, especially in the first game against MS All-Stars, playing that kind of inverted role, I was very surprised at how good he is on the ball. Yeah, he is very confident. And he was kind of arriving in positions I would not have thought the right back would be in. Yeah. So I'm quite excited to see him going ahead. And I was convinced he would be a backup to like Ben White, a right back and right centre back for Saliba.
You know me, I don't believe in backups.
That's what I was going to say. But if he carries on the preseason the way he has so far, he's going to give Arteta a headache because, you know, we've yet to see Zinchenko play any minutes. He's still recovering from that injury.
Yeah, wait, is he expected back? I know he was meant to.
Yeah, like he's with the team,
again.
right?
Oh, is he? Okay.
Yeah, like he's with the team, but I don't think he's ready to play. So then the question is, are we going to invert from the other side? And is there a world in which actually Timber starts in game week 1? Which, how many new cogs can you put in your first league match? Like, it's a bit of a risk, right? Like, we've already replaced potentially 2/3 of the midfield if we don't start Partey in game week 1. If you're then changing the back line, 2 of the fullbacks, that's looking a bit dangerous to go into the first match with such a new system with no kind of plans with them. But I think over the course of the season, I could see Timber really making one of these positions his own. So I'm interested to see what happens there. But in the match against United, I did think there was definitely, obviously, the quality of the opposition was a lot better than the MLS All-Stars. I don't think he had to defend as much in the first game. So we didn't get to see how he is like defending necessarily. But he was just, in terms of build-up, he was fantastic. But in the United game, I did think you could see he wasn't quite on the same wavelength as the rest of the team yet. And it was the same with kind of Havertz and Rice. It was the same
with the whole team, right? It looked like a team that were what it was, integrating 3 new signings. Like the most important part of a team, in my opinion, is the midfield, and those 3 had never played together. Then you got someone like, well, we usually invert from the left. You had Timber doing it from the right, so it was all new dynamics. So it's so hard to kind of judge people on it. But so what's your grading of him then?
So I've given Havertz a B. I feel like just in terms of the fact that he could be first choice faster than I thought Timber, and he's also very competent backup compared to some of the backups we've had in prior years, it has to be an A again for me. Like, just like, I honestly think like he is going to turn out to be phenomenal for us. And also the other thing is, it's about outside of the footballing side. You can see Arteta's building a team that is a family. Yeah. And I can feel I can feel that he is part of that family and he's going to fit right in. And I think those kind of things are understated, like dressing room harmony. We saw how bad it got for us when we had like the kind of the Ozil crew with Kolasinac, Mustafi, Gundosi, and like
I see some of those videos pop up. Like, it popped up on my timeline this morning, like Aubameyang, Lacazette in 18 to 19 and stuff. And at the time, I was enjoying it, and I look back, like, we had some absolute clowns at our football club. And you look at how we are now, and yeah, like, they've still got personality and stuff, but you can just see in their eyes, like, they've got that depth there. They mean business, but at the same time, like you said, that kind of warm, fuzzy family feeling about it. It's a special place to be.
I think the best part was when they asked Arteta, they asked the players tell us about Arteta, like, how did he approach this MLS game?
I think it was like, Balogun, right?
Yeah, I'm just like, he was just like, this guy is like, this is like, if he was in any other walk of life, you'd be scared to have him as your boss. Like, he is cutthroat. Like, he just wants to win everything, whether it's preseason or not. I think they definitely understand. Something I've seen more recently, I didn't quite appreciate this, is that he doesn't necessarily talk to all the players as much as we might think he does.
Right.
He almost like gives them the test or challenge
You're
of
referring
them
to the
proving
Saliba.
Just generally, yeah. Well, not just that, but like in terms of like say even Tierney or like others, they asked him like, oh, have you spoken to the manager about like? He's like, no, I've not spoken to him. I'm doing everything in training. I'm making sure I'm always available. No one can play every game. I still played good minutes last season, and I'm like, oh, this is a change of beat from you, Tierney. Like a lot of players are just saying, like Balogun said similar things as well. He was kind of like, yeah, I'm just gonna do what I can in training. I'm gonna do my talking with the ball, and it's almost like you show up, you do the work, and then Arteta will come and speak to you, and tell you, hey, so I'm gonna ask you to do something nuts. Can you do this? And he'll do it based on what he's been watching. So I didn't realize that he kind of, and it's similar with Smith Rowe. We said this before, right? Where maybe he's set him like a challenge where he's like, just you need to just show me in training, show me you're ready. It's like a challenge he's setting them.
Yeah, because the quote I saw was about Saliba talking about when he first came back from his loan, and they were saying, "Oh, so did Arteta speak to you?" And he said, "No, he just said hello, and then it was up to me to kind of prove myself, sort of thing." And then same thing, like we've heard this story a million times about when Smith Rowe went to Huddersfield on loan, and he said, "I don't care about your footballing ability. I know that. I want to hear what people say about you as a man, as a person, as a character." And his style's unique. But yeah, back to Timber, obviously.
Yeah, so I'm going to go for an A. I'm going to go for an A because I think he's phenomenal. Like the depth we've signed over the years compared to him are the likes of Lichtsteiner, Socrates, like
Cedric Suarez.
Cedric Suarez. That, like when you compare,
he's still around as all the bloody fungus.
Yeah, so when you compare like the level of kind of depth that we're signing here, like he is different gravy to those guys.
I'm the same. I'm going for I'll go for an A as well. I was going to go A minus, but an A. And also, that was it 35 million?
Yeah, he was very
that's
cheap.
Still, what's the catch? Like, that's so
that
cheap
is very
in today's
cheap.
market. But I just think, so I'm going to be banging this drum, and I was banging this drum last season. I don't believe in backups. Like, I believe we're building a squad of every single player in that first team squad has a role to play and can get substantial minutes. So I don't believe Timber's coming in to be a backup. I believe Timber's coming in to give us another option tactically and to challenge and push people and to eventually earn a spot for himself. Like I genuinely, I look at, there's not many players in the first team squad I look at and I just think you're a backup. I think other than Vieira, but let's not go there.
Yeah, we won't talk about him until we get to the squad depth slide.
Yeah, but so Timber for me again, it's Zinchenko from the right, and I was surprised by his ability on the ball as well. Same as you, can't confess to have actually watched him much, just kind of relying on other people's opinions. But the MLS game, conscious of the opposition, but there's certain things you can learn about players regardless of the opposition, and you could see his level of comfort on the ball in dangerous areas, tight spaces, and I think he's really going to give Arteta a headache, but it's a good headache to have. And like when we get onto the depth options, there's so many combinations of a back four we could have, and I'll be comfortable with about 4 or 5 variations of them. And I think
we have like 7-8 defenders. I'm happy with.
And also I just clocked. I actually forgot Kivior on the slide, so like we'll make a mental.
So I was going to say, so with Kivior, just to say something about him, like I think if preseason was to end now, he would be the player that had been at the club before the signings that I think his stock has risen the most in the preseason matches for me personally. Like I know he played at that kind of left back role a little bit last season, but he is also someone who's very young, and we forget that. And he is very comfortable on the ball too, actually. So yes, I know he's made some mistakes. It cost us in the league as well, but all these players should raise each other's ceilings together. Like the competition is very healthy here.
And again, it's like if you look at the goal in the recruitment and the objective, what is it? We are looking to build a squad that is, it's got variety, it's got depth, it's got people that are of a level that can just come in and there's no drop off. So like you think back to last season, Saliba was injured, the whole team kind of fell apart when Holding came in because of the relationship with others. Now, again, like I'm trying to forget backups. If Saliba's injured now, I'm so comfortable with Timber going there, White, whoever. And obviously last season we were unlucky. Tommy got injured at the same time. But back to the initial hypothesis, we're building a squad that has variety, depth and it can challenge on multiple fronts, and you can put together different combinations. So Wednesday we're playing in the Champions League, you'll have one combination. Saturday 12:30 back to the Premier League, we've got another combination, and like you can freshen the squad and change the dynamics without the level dropping at all. And I think it's literally just seen what Dream Team Professor's put in, and he's just worded it so much better than me. Raising the level in all positions, no starters and subs, building a whole squad capable of starting. That's it. That is literally it. And I just think Timber is the epitome of that. And I'm mind blown by the price. I don't get it.
Like, it does. Yeah, I honestly don't get it. I'm sure that United bid more last year when
has he got a year left or something?
It could be. Van Gaal told him, like, if he went to United, he might not be a starter, and that would, put his space in the national team at jeopardy, and he should think about it. And he didn't go, obviously. But I assume the reason the price got accepted this year at a lower bid can only be because of the length of the contract remaining.
Maybe.
Yeah. So just as we go into kind of the depth, I think a good question from Dream Team Professor that I have starred that kind of fits really nicely into the next slide around kind of what that squad looks like in 23-24. So I know for anyone on podcast, there's a graphic of kind of all 11 outfield players. There's kind of second, third, fourth option for each of those positions and who we think maybe are the starters. So we'll talk through some of that variation in our play that we talked about. But I just want to lead with this one, which he says, will you be worried if Partey goes and we don't get another midfielder? So the latest word on the street obviously was that they intend on keeping him. I don't want to kind of talk about what has been happening with him over the last couple of years.
Yeah, we're not allowed.
Allegations. I'm not looking to get into no libel claims, but I understand that like there was bail. It had been repeatedly pushed back, maybe perhaps due to lack of evidence for convictions, etc. And ultimately, there was a hearing, from my understanding, like a couple of days before the quotes from Arsenal came out to say that they have no intention of selling him. So I can only assume from there that the case is over and they're now not going to sell him. That's just something that I've kind of gleaned reading between the lines. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what happens. I know there was bids from Saudi. He would have preferred to go to Juve, but I don't see how we can get rid of 2/3 of the midfield from last year and just expect to kind of hit the ground running and carry on as normal.
All we can do is kind of comment from a footballing point of view, right? And yeah, for obvious reasons. But from a footballing perspective, I think, what was the question? Sorry, would we be disappointed if?
So if he goes, will you be worried if he goes and we don't get any other midfielders?
Yeah,
I think I would be pretty worried if we didn't buy another player.
I would, yeah. And it's more, I think the way we're evolving the team in terms of plan Bs and Cs, one of the things we've seen is Partey kind of starting and inverting from right back as well. And I think it's, while I don't believe in the backups and kind of two options per position, he is someone that can, if Rice isn't kind of, I don't know, if we want to offer something different, you've got Rice and Partey and Jorginho that are three different options that in the base of the midfield have different styles, right?
And Arteta said this. Arteta literally said, I have three good like central midfielders now, like sixes, and I have to find a way to use them.
Exactly. And
so like he's going to be using two of those three in a lot of games more than people
and
predicted.
there'll be some games where like I don't think Rice will play this role frequently, but I still think Rice can play in like one of the number 8 roles. And if you've got Partey there, and I don't know, in some games where you need to be a little bit more disciplined, because I also, just to add, obviously we've set this up as the 4-3-3. That was just me being lazy because I couldn't be bothered to shift it all around. It's quite a fiddly app. But I've seen every man and their dog setting formations up in the 3-2 and stuff. It's like, we were doing that last season. Like Zinchenko would tuck it. Like I don't get everyone's obsession to set the lineups like that now, but I do get it.
I think people think we're like, they're trying to fit all our transfers into the exact way we played last year. But as Arteta said himself, he said we've laid a great foundation and we must hit reset. Yeah, I don't think he's just gonna play the exact same plan A of last season all over again.
Not at all,
and force everyone into those positions despite what their skill set might be.
And with the profile of players we've got, you can't either. Like Havertz is a different number 8 to what Xhaka was. Rice is a different number 6 to what Partey was. And this is why I'm so bullish on, like, we are evolving. Like, what we did last year was phenomenal, but there's still levels we can go to, and how you do that is evolving and adding more layers to your side. And I think you just look at this graphic, and like I said, I forgot Kiwi. So like for the people on the podcast, I mean, if you're an Arsenal fan,
we have 4 left backs essentially, right?
Yeah, like it's I think it's having people that are comfortable in different positions. Like we've got such a versatile squad. Like you go through it. So in defense, we've got White, Timber, Tomiyasu. We've put Partey there because we've seen him start and invert in from right back. Saliba, Kiwi or Gabriel, Tierney, Zinchenko. Tierney, I still think is going to go for what it's worth. I know I've seen Delia and Aaron Plonker say about their opinions on Tierney and stuff, but I still think he's going to go. You look in midfield now, like just as a group, we've got Rice, Partey, Jorginho, Elneny in there if we need, Odegaard, Vieira, Smith Rowe, Havertz, Trossard. Rice could also play in the 8 as well. Then you look at the forward group, got Martinelli, Trossard if he needs to be there, Smith Rowe if he needs to be there, Nketiah, Balogun I think is going to go. Obviously Saka. I just think as a group, what we've built is so versatile, and it gives us the options to, if we want, we've still got the same players minus Xhaka. We could play last season's system. What I think we're evolving to is, like you hear Clive talk about, the kind of attack with 5, defend with 5. I think that's absolutely fine against teams like Forest. I think we may struggle defensively in some of the big games, but that's the beauty of the squad we've got. You can then kind of just be a bit more conservative, pragmatic with the different options. And I just think, mate, I still think it's going to be a little bit uncomfortable as we see them kind of build these relationships, but I think it will get there by the time the Forest game comes around. I think this squad is scary in terms of what it's capable of this season. And I know we're going to do an episode when you're back from your break before the season where we talk about season expectations and stuff. But I think the variety that this squad has built and the technical security all over the varying attributes that it's got, I think it's absolutely frightening.
So on that topic, I did add some notes around kind of when we were talking about Timber, especially, and obviously the addition of Rice and even Havertz to an extent. You then put in players like Saliba and, Saka and Jesus, who are all very technically gifted players, right? And Zinchenko, and there's so many technically gifted players. I think the ball retention and ball recovery of this squad is going to be terrifying. Like I could see on Rice's face in the first game he played for us, he was almost like, oh, right, this is what it's like to play with the majority of possession, and can someone give me the ball more often, please? Because I want to be involved more. And it was almost like a shock to him. I
heard what you said on the other pod. Yeah,
obviously I don't want to upset our friend Dan too much, but I think it's fair to say that their style of play is very different to ours, and it can be more transition based. Whereas in this system, Rice may be able to evolve aspects of his game that people don't necessarily credit him as his best aspect. So things like his goal scoring and his kind of assists, I think those numbers will go up playing for Arsenal, because I do think he can still do those things. He's just not necessarily been relied on in a system that gave him enough opportunities to further develop those skill sets.
Yeah, I think even the profiles of players we bought. Do you know what? I'll finish that sentence and then I'll go on to the tangent. The profile of players we've bought are all very front-footed, aggressive. You look at Rice, Timber, you look at people like White, Saliba, Gabriel, Odegaard, how he presses, Saka, Martinelli, Jesus. It's a very front-footed, aggressive team, and you can tell we're looking to suffocate the shit out of teams. We're going to be so aggressive in duels. And someone like Havertz, I first thought, okay, he doesn't quite fit that mold in terms of the relentlessness and stuff, but from the very limited amount of minutes I've seen in an Arsenal shirt, he looks quite intelligent in the way he presses. So Odegaard is very intelligent at pressing, and he kind of covers passing lanes really well. Havertz was actually coordinating things, and I think it may have been Nketiah that he was pressing with. He was actually instructing him where to go, and I saw a bit more intensity in him than I was assuming we would get. So maybe it's just with so many people and in human beings, sometimes the environment you're in dictates your behavior, right? Maybe
I think Havertz has got the unfortunate thing for Havertz, and I think Saliba has this about him as well, which is the Ozil trait. People think they look lazy, but they're just sometimes when things aren't going well, they look nonchalant or like they just look like they're not bothered. But I think they also look like that in general, like when things are going well. So we kind of pick up on those things when they're having a tough time. We're like, oh, look, they're not trying hard. And I think it's a very subjective view. We're like, we're assuming they're not trying hard or that they don't care. But of course they fucking care. Like, so I think we just sometimes overreact, I guess is the best way to put it, about like their expressions and body language. I think
I'm a sucker for it. I do it myself. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I do it too. And obviously, like, but you can see it the other way. I've seen players that get like super kudos from fans for being passion merchants, essentially.
Yeah.
They just scream and
they're
shout.
Not effective. Yeah.
And they're not actually effective. So, like, you know, you look at Mustafi, every time we concede it, you point at someone and shout. Yeah, like raise their arms in the air, shout, point. Like, okay, like that's quite fun to rile up like the fans and get them on side or whatever. Like, yeah, okay, great. Some passion is good. But then there's other players who just that's not their personality, and we shouldn't judge them based on because we think they look like they're not bothered. Like I don't think any of this squad are not bothered. They would not be here with Arteta if they were like that. Like he's got a very key profile of what he wants from people. I think just in terms of other bits, so I think Timber himself, I think his ability to break down low blocks is going to be elite as well. So where last season we really struggled, like against Newcastle at home, and it ended 0-0. And, you know, they doubled up on our wingers. We couldn't get the ball into the box through the passing lanes. They closed them all off. I think where we're against, you know, teams that are going to defend deep like that, I do think with the additions of Havertz and Timber and even Rice, these are players who are basically setting us up to have that plan B that we didn't have. To, you know, if you're going to just sit back, these guys will cut you open like cake.
Yeah.
Like, so I think that's something we didn't have last year that I'm excited to see more of from these players.
Let's just say the graphic on screen, just for sake of argument, is the starting 11 against Forest, and it's 0-0, and we've got 2 minutes to go. Look at the bloody bench options we've got now. Like it, and again,
and we've not even got Balogun in there. Like obviously we think he'll go, but you never know.
Like we've got such variety now, and I've said that word so many times, but I'm so proud of the squad we're building, and I'm so optimistic about what we can achieve with this group. And I think for me, if I just had to summarize the kind of new signings, I'm over the moon with all of them. Havertz, I actually think is going to do pretty well. And then I just think moving on to the squad, if you just look at the way it's evolved, it's such a phenomenal squad with such variety to it and tactical flexibility.
Would you say anything's missing? So something I read recently, and I think it's a very good point, is that essentially I look at this squad right now, and I don't think there's any positions or players or profiles we need. It's more like icing on the cake. Or whatever we get between now and the end of the window, they're just like fine-tuning and adjustment. Like this isn't like a squad where I look at it and I think, holy shit, there's a massive hole at right back or a massive hole at CM. Like I don't see any huge holes, right? Like
there's no holes, but I still think assuming Balogun goes, I still think we're a quality, versatile forward option short. I think.
Is it a good time to talk about Kudus, another Ajax player?
Yeah, go for it.
Because I do think he's someone he's 25. He's experienced. He's played Champions League football. I knew of him because I actually owned him in Champions League fantasy quite a lot. And he was bloody popping in goals everywhere. He played out of position as striker some games.
Oh, wow.
He's a central mid. He played attacking mid. He's right wing cover for Saka.
We talk about versatile young experienced players. We've been speaking to him for a while, right?
Yeah, apparently a long time. Like people have said that we've been talking to this guy since the World Cup time. So this is someone who I don't think we're going to get unless there's outgoings, for one. But I do think that he is that final piece of the jigsaw. So when he's mentioned kind of versatile forward, he's someone who I think could be the versatile right wing cover to give Saka more breathers, but also can be one of the eights and another backup option in the eights. So he's someone who, again, I think he's just the exact right profile, right age, right experience from a young player. And honestly, as Plonker's saying in the chat, he says he wants Kudus so bad. I assume Plonker also played UCL Fantasy and tuned in to watch him sometimes. And honestly, he is someone who I'd be very excited by. So I do hope some of the outgoings happen so we can do this. I think realistically, I'd heard that 2 more could come in. So I guess the question is, who's the second? Yeah, who is the second? is it that Kudus is not related to the Balogun thing and it is still like another striker? Is it that we're going to go really heavy on the front line, or is it that it's another defender? Because, let's say Holding is sold, let's say Balogun is sold. Do we get another defender, another versatile defender plus Kudus? Or like, is there another position? Because I guess you got like, if Partey was the one to leave, then you're looking at like maybe a central mid. So there's a few kind of options.
Working on the do you think Tierney, should we do a quick...
Oh, who will go or who will stay?
Who will go, will they stay? All right, so quick fire. Balogun, do you think he'll stay or go?
I want him to stay. I think
you missed the memo on quick fire.
No, I want him to stay. I want him to stay. You need to ask me that on the next episode because he didn't appear against United at all. And he was training away from the squad. So I don't know if that's like with a fitness coach because he wasn't quite up to speed, or is he being kept safe from injury to sell? I would like to think Arteta will give him some games in preseason if he is fit, and he will prove to him that he should stay. So I want him to stay, and I think if he's given the chance, he will prove why he should stay.
See, I heard what Claude said, and it kind of changed. Clive. It kind of changed my opinion on him because on the ball, like you can tell he's talented, and there's enough from what I've heard and seen of what he's done in France that makes me want to see him in our red and white. But I just snippets of, and I know it's so dangerous taking quotes out of context, but there's little bits and bobs where I do question his mentality, and he's kind of potentially got this superstar ego that, I don't know.
He's the face of the US men's national team now for a
and
World
I just
Cup
think
host.
that doesn't cut it for this Arsenal squad. And there's and then there's kind of, you see on the ball he's great and you can see his movement's good.
He creates like his own chances, right? That no one in the squad today can.
The flip side is what makes our attack so great. They're front-footed, defending from the front. Will he do stuff like that? I just think I
think that's the challenge from Arteta to him is I want to see what you can do off the ball.
Yeah, and that these are all just open questions, but if Arteta deems that he doesn't have those stuff, I am so at peace with.
His stock is very high as well, right? So the other question is if there's no chance of him getting regular time and that's what he wants, and he doesn't want to stay and not start regularly, then we're not very good at selling normally, and this could become one of our highest ever sales.
He should be, yeah. So my personal opinion is I think he's going to go, and I do think we'll get a versatile option. But that's only if he goes. If he stays, I don't think we will get someone else coming. Tierney, going or staying?
His recent quotes make me think he's going to stay.
I can't lie. I've not seen what the quotes were.
Just the stuff I was saying earlier about how he said, he's just basically working hard, doing everything so the manager picks him. He was ready on the sidelines last season because he was available and didn't play. It wasn't that he was injured like prior years. He was actually available. And he basically said, I got lots of minutes last year and it's about just trying to get more. So that doesn't scream to me of someone who I almost feel like he's almost got the buzz of these new signings coming in. He can see what we're building and maybe he actually does want to kind of contribute to that and play in the UCL with us. I've not seen anything from Newcastle coming back in for him. Maybe they want to swoop in at the end closer to deadline day. I don't know.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because what Aaron said, Plonker said earlier, I agree. I think tactically, Timber tucking in with Tierney holding the width makes a lot of sense, and it's another variation that works. But I said this so much last season, and it's I remember when we were struggling, one of the solutions I said was you have Tierney kind of hold. If you look at our 5 lanes and how we used to attack last season, I was talking about tweaking it so Tierney would hold the width, Martinelli's closer to goal and stuff, and it's one of those that the theory of it made so much sense, but in the reality, we never saw it. And it became quite clear where and how Arteta felt about him. And it's we have all these hypotheticals that we think it works. And the reality was, what was the fact? Arteta didn't really use him, right? And
he's another who could raise serious funds as well. So him and Balogun are probably the two that we could get the most money from.
It's that, and it's also, I just think our squad is evolving to a technical competence beyond what he is. And I think that's what Arteta is kind of driving as well. I love Tierney. I think he's still got his uses, but I don't think Arteta does, and that's what's the most important thing. So I still think he's going to go, personally.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Anyone
if he does
else?
go, do you think we will get another defender then?
I think if him and Holding both go, we might. You could promote someone from the academy, like a Royal Walters and some of these guys who have obviously, like, I think, is Royal Walters the only academy kid who went on tour?
As a defender, yeah.
I don't think any other academy kid went with them to America.
Did that Cozier Dubry?
Oh, maybe it was him who went, not Royal Walters. Yeah, so I think Royal Walters and the other academy kids got left to go on an under-21 tour or something. So
let's say if Tierney and Holding go, as a group, do you think Zinchenko, Tomiyasu, Kiwior, Gabriel, Saliba, Timber, White, that's 6?
That's 7 or 7.
Yeah, did I count wrong?
yeah, that's 7 defenders. And then I guess you've got the emergency party right back, the emergency right centre back, or playing left wing back or something. Like this squad is so goddamn versatile.
Maybe we will get one more versatile defender then.
I think 8 defenders for 4 positions would be ideal. So if they're both left, I would expect us to get one more.
Yeah.
What about then? So in terms of other positions, so we talked about if Balogun goes, maybe a versatile forward. I'd like to take Kay's question here, which is related to a striker signing. So I think there's an interesting question from K Football. Thanks for tuning in, mate. So they say, why are you guys not looking at a striker like Vlahovic or Goncalo Ramos? Arsenal need a goal-scoring number 9. Jesus was benched in a strikerless Man City team. So I think there's a few things to unpack there. I think the first thing is, I did see something recently that was about the concept that you need either your forward, your number 9, or your kind of inside forwards, your wingers. You need someone in that group to get 20 plus Premier League goals for a title winning team. And that City team that won without a striker, they still had like other players in the wing who did get 20 plus goals. And even when you look at, say, like Liverpool, when Firmino played in a more deep role, perhaps similar to Jesus, and dropped deep and was part of the link-up play, Salah and Mane contributed those goals. They both got over 20 in that golden boot race as well that year with Aubameyang. So I think Saka got, not 20 goals. Martinelli got 15. They were both not quite there at 20. So the question is, does kind of Arteta persist with a less clinical goal scoring forward like Jesus, with the option of Beddy or Balogun on the bench, and then rely on those wingers to create the goals? Or is it that we should actually be looking at like another forward who in the long term will be like a 20 to 30 goal striker? Like, because there's not many of them out there, right? And not at a good price. Like Vlahovic, he originally wanted. He didn't want to come. He went to Juve. He now wants to leave, I think. Goncalo Ramos, that's actually an excellent shout. I think he was fantastic last year as well. I feel like we're almost like not ready for that striker signing, because like whoever comes in, they're going to want to be the star striker, right? And I'm not sure he's ready to bench Jesus for what he does off the ball and leading the press and kind of bringing into play the 2 wingers either side. So I do think we will go for maybe a big striker signing, but I have a feeling it will be next summer.
Me too.
And I don't think it will be part of this year's squad build, unfortunately. But these are really good points. And I think I said it to you at the end of last season's review, where I felt like I wanted like a plan B striker, a different striker, just someone with different skill set.
But I think this is... Sorry, go on.
Yeah, no, but and I don't think we have that. But I guess that's where I feel maybe our goals are a bit more spread around. And if you kind of believe that Martinelli and Saka should hopefully keep getting better, last year they were better than the year before, then maybe one of them is going to be the one who contributes that 20 plus Premier League goals to kind of push us on.
And this is where you look at the kind of makeup of the system and profiles. I think Havertz is being signed to kind of what his purpose in the team is, to contribute goals. And it's about, this Arsenal team is built in a way where Jesus unlocks things and others kind of are the key contributors for goals. And I think someone like Havertz will come in and look to, what did Xhaka get last year? It was like 7 goals, 7 assists. I think
7 goals, 7 assists.
Havertz's target is going to be double-figure goals, in my opinion. And I think that's how this Arsenal team's built. But I agree with you. I think next summer may be the kind of icing on the cake kind of cherry on the icing even.
I've been banging this drum for a while, but my view was that so my view was that while everyone's out there getting their strikers, if Kane leaves Spurs and United are getting a striker, etc. The player I would most like to get, who's already Premier League player, is Evan Ferguson from Brighton.
I want to see how he gets on this season, because I agree with his potential, but I think by the time next season comes around, we're just it will be like a Declan Rice-esque, like pluck the best in their position that can just come in.
Plonker says next summer, elite number 9, elite goalkeeper, final phase, complete PL champions.
That's honestly what I think. Like, assuming
I think both those positions could be improved in theories. I think the goalkeeper with Rams, obviously, he's just signed a new contract. He's protected his value and extended it. I still do believe he's not near the prime age for a goalkeeper. But if I was to look at this team right now that you've got on the screen, and there was one player that I had to potentially change, if I felt that would push us onto like a win immediately, it would be the goalkeeper. But what we need from Ramsdale, and I think it was Clive or someone else who said this, they were like, what Ramsdale needs to do this season is make it so that next summer that is not the conversation we're having.
It's a big season for him.
Yeah, this is huge for him. Like, this is his season to either become like the long-term goalkeeper at Arsenal or potentially have to now fight with a big money goalkeeper coming in.
Because no one doubts he's nowhere near his prime, like you say. No one doubts what he could be. And he could potentially be Arsenal's number 1 for like 7, 8, 9, 10 years. But we're in the now, and we've got a squad that can compete on major fronts now. And right now, he's got limitations that could potentially hold us back. They can go in 4 or 5 years, but football's brutal. You can't afford to wait 4 or 5 years to realize someone's potential. So this is a big season for him, and he's got a lot to work on, in my opinion.
He's gonna have to prove a lot of people.
I'm not as high on him as many Arsenal fans tend to be.
I was quite high on him. But I do think that now, with the benefit of hindsight and having watched him more, I do worry sometimes by some of his, I guess, rash decision making. There were times when like we felt he kind of made dangerous decisions, and I feel like he's sometimes like he's got the banter and the shithousery, but sometimes that kind of causes him to not focus on the matter at hand. I felt.
I just feel like I agree, but I just feel like his shot stopping sometimes. There's so many goals where I think I find myself saying he should have done better there. I feel like his distribution has regressed, and again, if this is all, again, we're being savage because
it feels like the squad is like now taking us to another expectation level. Yeah.
If we were still 2019. We're looking for top 4. Ramsdale would be absolutely fine. But we're looking to be one of the best teams in the world consistently for the next few years. And that there's expectations and levels as a result of that. He can get there, no doubt about it. But we can't afford to wait years for someone to realize.
What are your thoughts on, in terms of, just before we wrap up on, so the Jesus question, is there a world in which, because I feel Martinelli is the best finisher at the club, and he's only going to get better. Is there a world in which he can become the starting centre forward, that he converts?
Martinelli?
Yeah. We've seen him sometimes play through the middle, but is there a world in which, because I honestly feel if he has the ball and he's the one through on goal, he's the one I want in this team to be there, taking that opportunity.
Yes and no. I am quite bullish on, I prefer him starting on the left and attacking the space centrally rather than
beating the fullback and getting inside,
and attacking the areas where he can get on the end of it, rather than, I don't want someone like Martinelli receiving the ball with his back to goal and like linking others in. And like, of course, as centre forward, he will get in the right areas and he'll attack the near post and stuff. But I prefer him as developing into one of the best left wingers in the world.
No, that's fair.
I still
think
it's
almost like forcing him into a position when actually next summer we could strengthen that position further. The other thing that we, I guess, not accounted for is, I understand Jesus is kind of clinically underperformed his XG over the years, not just last year, and Havertz is similar in that sense. So we do have some underperformers here, but then we also have some overperformers in the likes of Saka, where they've obviously scored more than their expected goals. So the question is, do the underlyings of the players who overperform go up, so it's sustainable, so the Saka's underlyings go up with age, same with Martinelli, and will Jesus underperform his XG less? because those small adjustments, if they can improve those with those regards of becoming more clinical and building better underlying numbers, Jesus is still very young. Like I know we talk about replacing him with another striker, but he had a kind of stop-start season last year. Obviously, he came in hot, and then it kind of, the injury kind of killed it off a bit. Then he came back in hot from the injury, and then it kind of died off again a bit towards the end of the season. So I don't think the stop-start season helped him, the World Cup in the middle, that kind of stuff. There is a world in which, in a year from now, Jesus could have proven a lot of people wrong. And this kind of idea of him underperforming his XG isn't the one that we're focusing on, because actually, like, maybe he does have a stellar season. Maybe he gets that 15 to 20 Premier League goals.
He's hoping. One thing I want to double down on is, like, when we talk about what else we need, I really want to double down on we need one more versatile forward, because I just think I'm looking around the graphic. Most positions, if someone gets injured, I feel comfortable with like the other alternative. If Martinelli gets injured, I don't think Trossard is a winger. I think he can play there. I just don't think we get the best from him there. I think he's better in like that 8 role or false 9. If Saka gets injured,
I want Trossard to be the backup left centre mid. In fact, he could start many games there. I thought, obviously, the MLS aren't a great opponent, but when he played that game, that first half from him, just even ignoring the kind of the nice audacious goal he scored, I felt it was a bit Santi Cazorla-esque.
Yeah, that's a nice comparison.
Yeah, like I felt like that kind of ball control, the two-footedness, like it was just honestly quite refreshing, because that was a player I always didn't kind of get to say goodbye to on the pitch, and felt like his time was cut short. I know there's talks of Arteta trying to convince him to join the coaching squad, and that would be very much welcome if that happens. Santi was someone who always had a smile on his face.
Yeah.
And he just seemed to understand the camaraderie of the dressing room and bring out that joy amongst his peers. He was someone I had a lot of love for and a lot of time.
I wouldn't say Trossard's someone that has a smile on his face. He always
he definitely doesn't have that. Yeah, he has. Yeah, he's not that. Just in terms of technical ability, it's quite nice to see that from him. But Plonka says Trossard left 8 gets my balls tingling so far.
And me.
Yeah, no. So I'd love to see how he does continuing there. But I'm keen to see how the season goes on. I think one person we've not touched on, I think we should chat about him before we go, is Eddie, because he did very well when he came in after Jesus was injured. He got the winner against United. Like, he had a solid few games. He did fantastic at the Spurs Stadium. But he did also not really kind of cut it towards the end. I know he was thrown out on the left wing for a bit towards the end. He also played left wing in pre-season. I think Arteta's trying to see what else he can do with him. But Eddie was kind of saying in recent interviews that, he wants to fight to make himself the number 1 forward in the team. So he wants to be the first choice starter, and he's going to push for it. Now, is there a world in which we sell him and keep Balogun because we've seen Eddie and we now want to see what Balogun does? And then if he doesn't cut it, we sell him next summer too. Is that kind of like they both get 1 year to prove themselves before Arteta goes and bites a striker? Is that kind of like what might happen? Like, is there a world in which you'd see Eddie as the one who's sold rather than Balogun?
I could see a world in where Balogun stays, Eddie goes, but I don't think it will be the reason of like, Eddie's had 1 year, let's see what Balogun. I think it will just be a decision based on what Arteta thinks attribute-wise and personality-wise they bring to the squad. I think it will be as simple as that. I still feel more comfortable with Nketiah as a step-in option than I think most Arsenal fans. And I think it's one of those, although we need to get comfortable with the idea of kind of sharing the load and rotational options and stuff, I think Nketiah is someone that he's not really going to be starting unless Jesus is injured, in my opinion. And I think it's so hard. I think because that centre-forward option is so specific in what Arteta wants for it to unlock in the rest of the team, it's so telling that when the left-hand side was struggling last season, he went for like a Trossard as a false 9 who profile-wise is the most similar to Jesus you can get to play that role, right? So I think Nketiah is just there to someone to give us something different. And I think his profile is probably someone that you're only going to be using when we're chasing a game and throwing a kitchen sink, and you just want him in the box.
The start of last season, like I remember there was a game where we subbed off like a defender
and we went 3-5-2,
and we put 2 up top. Yeah, it was definitely Fulham. I think it was after the incident where Gabriel had a lapse of judgment for a moment and Mitrovic took the ball and went in and scored. But yeah, I was surprised we didn't see more of that. But perhaps the fact that they weren't both fit as often, maybe. But yeah, that was a nice option, because I don't think we've seen us just kind of throw the kitchen sink, the Wenger-esque era of before you know it, like you're getting to full time and there's like 7 attackers on the field and 1 defender left.
But you look at the makeup of this attack now, and we're getting there in terms of what we can potentially bring on. So yeah.
Cool. I think so. We'll kind of leave it there for today. We're 1 hour, 10 minutes in. We'll get this uploaded on podcast as well for anyone listening on Spotify or Apple or elsewhere. If you've enjoyed the episode, we'd really appreciate a subscription. Join us as we go through more preseason content, and we'll talk next episode about our kind of expectations going ahead. Obviously, we'll do the previews and reviews of the matches as well once the season starts, and some of the new kind of short form content we discuss with instant reactions at the matches, just to give our raw opinions as we kind of see the results come in. Otherwise, thank you all for tuning in live with us. It's been a pleasant Tuesday lunchtime. It's been lovely.
It's been so nice to be back. Yeah, thanks everyone.
Yeah, it's so nice to be back. Lots of good conversations and discussion points in the chat. Just before we go, a quick thank you again to FPL Plonker, to Dream Team Professor, to Dan, who we thank very much for giving us Declan Rice. Delia, good to see you as well. Actually, Delia, so I understand now that we should be pronouncing your name as like Delhi, but Delia. So have I said it right? Delia? Let me know. Okay. Let me know. I'll try to get Jesus' name right next week. Marsh, good to see you as well. Thanks for tuning in, buddy. And K Football, lovely to have you join us in the chat. But yeah, it's been a pleasure, everyone. We'll see you for the next episode soon. Otherwise, up the Arsenal. Enjoy your week, and let's go on to Barcelona in the preseason.
Nice one. Up the Arsenal. Cheers,
up everyone. The Arsenal. Come on, you Gunners.